On Ticker, this is Import Export with Lawrence Christophels.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Import Export here on Ticker TV. I'm your host, Lawrence Christophels. We've got a whole range of new and evolving things with global trade every week. And this week, obviously, there's a whole range of different dynamics going through, still impacted all by COVID-19, but supply chains are slowly starting to get back to normal of coming out of countries such as China and so forth. On today's show, we've got a range of diverse guests to really give us their insights, but also some tips and inspiration around how to grow business as well, like we always do. So I'm going to kick off with our first guest, George Hadjiyannakis from DGA Australia. George, welcome to the show again, mate.
Oh, thank you, Lawrence.
George, the reason why I want to get you back on the show is to talk about a couple of really important things. So we know the impact of coronavirus has had on Australian trade and cargo. I mean, back in January, February, nothing was being produced out of China. So all the cargo started to dry up. So in essence, the container unpacks that you guys do and specialize in, it was a challenge there. Now cargo is starting to come back in, but we've had workers being put off or laid off, and we've had shutdowns. So importers are still getting cargo starting now to come through, but they may not have a labour force, or they're choosing to maybe have a inexperienced labour force. So I wanted to get you back on the show and ask you a couple of really important questions from mine and the viewer's perspective. So first and foremost, how has the coronavirus started to change over the last couple of weeks from GDA's perspective with container unpacks?
So basically, we obviously are following the restrictions as well. We have clients that are based in New Zealand and already on stage 4. And because of this, we follow the stage 4 restrictions for those clients here in Melbourne. Yeah. The companies are not willing to, the companies that you're talking about, say, are using unskilled people. They're not deliberately doing it. What's happened with this coronavirus is a lot of people are out of a job. They've gone to all these recruitment agencies to apply for work. With the amount of people coming in for jobs, it's impossible to screen every single person. They put them on their database. Joe Blow will ring up saying he's got a container, needs it unpacked, and they'll just send anyone out. There'll be no training, no skill, no idea what's going on. I've had people ring me up. We've had to take over the site for them where they've sent someone out and the guy's gone to unload a container of 25 kilo bags and he had crutches. So that's how bad it's actually getting. And we need to be very careful of this, because at the end of the day, WorkSafe will pound on you as the director of the company. If an accident does happen on your site, you can't just say, I called an agency and it was their responsibility, because in actual fact, it's not. Depending on the injury, you can be fined at approximately around $30,000 for that injury that occurred. And then by no means, the guy himself will take legal action against you too, especially when he knows that WorkSafe's on your back about it too. So it's a double-edged sword. The only way to get out of this is to reduce your risks involved with unpacking the containers, and that's to use a professional company like ourselves, where our staff are all trained to do this job. We don't have anyone that goes out to sites that have never even seen what a box looks like. Yeah. As a matter of fact, our guys have a special ID number that links to all the training that they've done to unpack and move items in a safe, effective manner.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of really important points you make there, George. So first and foremost, I think the fact that the training part, it's a critical element, the liability piece, but also one of the things, and we even saw this yesterday with the wharfies, their companies are now really trying to manage, especially in an unpacking scenario or moving cargo, how do you do this with keeping your distances and your social distancing, unless you're specifically trained to actually not just unload a container properly, but you're trained now to do the proper social distancing, sanitizing, masks, or whatever you guys have to do in making sure that your people are safe, as well as not spreading anything to the actual owners of the cargo company that you're working in either. So there's a whole range of different, it's almost like a perfect storm at the moment from handling freight, where with importers and distributors and exporters for that matter have had to lay off a lot of their staff because they have to go from full-time to a fluctuating type workforce. And as you mentioned, many people out of work are as they everyone would be doing, is ringing up labour agencies and saying, look, can I go, give me any work I can, including container unpacks, but they haven't properly been trained, they haven't been screened, and therefore they become almost a risk, well, a serious risk to
it is a
themselves
serious
and
risk.
companies. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, stock, people just think stock that comes in on containers is always forklift out. It's not. And different weights, different sizes. You have dead weight. There's a lot of issues with it. What we're trying to do while this coronavirus is happening is the same guys on the same sites every day. They do not go and work on other sites.
Yeah.
So we're lucky we have a big workforce that we can use.
Yeah.
And we restrict the men from moving from site to site to restrict the chances of the virus happening, and the same people are working together as well. And then after work, they obviously go straight home and stay in their houses. So these are just things that we have to do to make sure that even our clients are safe. But the most important thing, which I can't stress enough, is a lot of these companies are getting these agencies to come and do the containers. And I'll tell you what, when someone rocks up, even if he goes home because he can't do it, you still have to pay him by law. So you've got a guy you've had to pay for, let's say, maybe 4 hours, because that's what the law states. He's got to have his minimum wage. The agency will charge you. Don't want to pay because he couldn't do the job. He wasn't suitable. Where do you go? It's a big storm that's going to happen.
Yeah, sure. And as this continues to unfold, and we're all being told that we have to get used to this for the long term, those risks are going to compound, because as more and more cargo starts to come back into Australia, those manufacturing has already ramped up. Cargo that we've been all desperately waiting for is starting to really rapidly going to start piling up at the wharves and then going into warehouses again. So it is
Absolutely.
a situation, yeah.
So just to let people know out there, it's not an expensive exercise. We come to your warehouse and we'll unpack the container for you. We don't transport the container, so don't get that confused with what we actually do. Now, to unpack a 20-foot container or a 40-foot container, we start from $100 for a 20-foot container to have it unpacked.
Yep.
That's 2 men at your site to get your container unpacked. A 40-foot container starts from $200. So don't be scared to ring up and ask and have professional people to do it. We are able to do it at a very cost-effective manner, as we are trained and we can do the job quite efficiently, which is why we're able to do this.
Yeah, I think when you sort of talk to those type of prices, it's almost not worth the risk trying to muck around and take some band-aid fixes. Just get the whole solution sorted, get some professionals in like yourselves, and just get that done, because the risk is not worth a couple of $100 to do a container, really. So it makes a lot of sense. What are the other things that, how are you finding the actual importers at the moment, George? Obviously they're all trying to survive, they're all trying to keep their business, and not just from a risk and liability. You touched on how cost effective it can be. I think everyone across all aspects of the supply chain, whether you're looking at your warehouse costs, your freight spend, obviously your labour costs, all those things, people now have got to go through all their operational costs with a fine-tooth comb. Are you finding that those importers are still really, they're really finding the opportunities now to look for savings in their business that they hadn't really thought of before?
Yeah, look, we do find that there are a lot of people are starting to find it a lot harder, and you can see that as we try to get payments from clients as well. They're concerned that their clients aren't going to pay them, so there's a big cash flow issue that's starting to happen across the board. And this is another issue. A lot of these companies, they might call an agency to go out there. They don't do the proper checks. They might use you guys for a week, and then they shut down after a week because they just can't pay any bills, and you've got nowhere to go to collect your cash. Everyone is getting rid of staff. They're down to minimum. We have a lot of clients we do work for. There's no office staff. They only have the minimum warehouse staff, and they'll call us in to do basically their warehouse work for them with the minimum staff that they do have, and everyone's just working from home.
Yeah,
well, so it's just the way the world's changed too.
Yeah, as an essential service, obviously you've got, you're required there. You can't be having containers sitting around, not being unpacked and not getting product into a warehouse, because as I said
we've got
before,
starting next week, there's 140 containers coming from China of toilet paper that needs to be done. So that's going to be done on a day and night shift. These essentials just need to get done. The issue with the wharf, the coronavirus. I mean, the containers are over the water for 19 days from China, so the virus can't survive. And then you've got the heat inside the containers as well. I don't understand what the issue was there.
Yeah, look, I mean, I don't know about the actual specifics, but I know that in real simple terms, every importer has got they've got to reduce their workforce to stay alive, to stay in survival mode and keep the business afloat. But therefore, they still need to be able to have a flexible workforce, that basically a plug-in workforce, if you like, when these boxes arrive, just get it in and out, unpack the cargo, send the containers back so they're not being hit with detention, demurrage, because as much as we've got all these government support programs getting rolled out, the shipping lines haven't said, look, we're not going to charge anyone demurrage or detention, are they? So that stuff's still going to be charged. If anything,
that's where the problem is. We just have to make sure that the containers are obviously not touched within that 14-day period, and then it's safe for the men to work in the container, and we just have to make sure that they are working at with the proper safety gear to make sure they don't catch off anyone else.
Yeah. George, I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, what's your view of how things are going to evolve? Do you think that things will ever get back to what they were before? Or do you think people are going to, really just embrace outsourcing and some of those benefits, and they'll sort of reskill some of their workers to different things across their operation? Obviously, they want to see people unemployed, but yeah.
Unfortunately, what will happen is a lot of business owners will see they've had to run their business a lot more cleaner with no fat on it. And once they've been doing that for 3 or 4 months, it's going to be hard for them to go back to the way it used to be, where there's a lot of fat on it. So it will be a lot leaner. I think there will be a lot more work would be outsourced if it's going to save that company a lot of money. A lot of companies are using this time to get rid of dead stuff that they couldn't use anyway. And it's just a change. So everyone needs to perform at 100% at their best ability, basically to keep their jobs in no matter what field they're in.
Great. Thanks so much, George. It's been really valuable, and now you're really at that forefront of trying to manage the cargo as it starts to come in. Really recommend anyone who needs some advice and help around unpacking their containers safely, efficiently, and get it in and out as quickly as possible, so avoid any contamination with any other staff. Give George a call, gdals.com.au, and reach out. He'll be able to give you all the expert tips and advice and come out, or not come out, but maybe give you a call and have a chat. So thanks again, George. All the best, mate. Stay safe, and look forward to chatting again very soon.
Cheers.